Okay, so one more time. We've got our position that according to the Star Tribune, that Congress should not shut down the government. Now we need to start looking for reasons why they should not shut down the government. That's ultimately what we're trying to find. So there are two questions you can ask yourself as you're looking at this. You can say to yourself, before looking for evidence, why? And then you can put your claim statement. So why shouldn't Congress shut down the government? What's nice about this is it gives me a perspective on what I should look for. The other thing I can do is more of a check. So it's more of after I've found evidence. And so we reverse that. So we could say Congress shouldn't shut down the government because, and we want to read the piece of evidence. And what we want the evidence to do is explain, but not to repeat. So if it just restates the idea that it shouldn't shut down government, that doesn't prove anything. What we're looking for is something which explains why. So I'm just going to search through, and I know that what I'm looking for is reasons why government shouldn't shut down Congress. So I'm just going to scan. And I can't only scan my underlines. They're a good place to start, but I can't just go there. So frustrating, Congress, next Friday announcement, John Boehner resigned position. That doesn't really give me a reason why. It tells me what's happening. And if I look over here, I see that government leaders are choosing ideology over governing. That tells me my summary statement. Well, that tells me I probably don't have evidence here. I'm going to look down here. Okay, what's the problem? That might have some evidence for me if it explains what the problem is. So, yet another politically manufactured crisis is regrettably at hand. Congress shouldn't shut down the government because another politically manufactured crisis is regrettably at hand. That seems to repeat what I'm saying. That doesn't seem to explain it. So I'm going to try something else. Deadline looms for passing legislation over fiscal. That doesn't help. If it gets mired in a stalemate over Planned Parenthood, closed signs will go up over national parks, federal agencies, and other operations as of midnight, September 30th. So if it gets mired in a stalemate, closed signs are going to go up in national parks. I don't really understand why closed signs are going up over national parks. Why close national parks? I'm not really sure what those have to do with Planned Parenthood, but I think that might work. Let me try this. So Congress shouldn't shut down the government because if it gets mired in a stalemate over funding for Planned Parenthood, closed signs would go up on national parks, federal agencies, and other operations. I think that actually works. I think that works well. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little star by that because I know that's one of my pieces of evidence I can use. I'm just going to keep checking along the side. Business don't act this way. If businesses don't act this way, this tells me that maybe governments shouldn't act this way either. So I think this is a good place for me to go. So no business would operate this way. I'm going to put another star. And I could try this. Congress shouldn't shut down the government because no business would operate this way. There are always strategic differences among executive teams, but threatening a company shutdown which would erode customer confidence and impede strategic planning, isn't a corporate playbook. I think that works, so I'm going to keep my star there. Just looking down, this is Minnesota reps not on board. I don't think that's good evidence. Senate has set up a clean bill resolution. That tells me what's going on, but that doesn't tell me what my evidence is. Shutdown would lose healthcare. Now that does seem like a reason. So if I said Congress shouldn't shut down because they wouldn't just defund Planned Parenthood, they would defund healthcare for millions of women. Community health centers, as mentioned as alternatives, do not have the capacity to observe if Planned Parenthood abruptly shut down. That makes sense again. That does explain it. So that's another good piece of evidence. So I'm going to mark that again. And I'm not just looking for the first three, I'm looking for the best three. Because at the end of the day, that's going to help me choose evidence that's the easier for me to explain. So the next thing I've got here, let's see, keeping the government running is one of the most fundamental responsibilities. That seems like a good piece of evidence too. If it is the responsibility of government to keep running, then they shouldn't shut down. That makes sense. Now that's not exactly an echo, that's not exactly a repeat. You're just saying that it's the fundamental responsibility. So why shouldn't it shut down? Because it's the fundamental responsibility. It's the first job of government not to shut down. This makes sense. So I've got really 4 solid pieces of evidence. I think there's also one I missed up here. Right here, I think we could use that for evidence. That Congress shouldn't shut down because replacing Boehner, as some members will not magically allow these critics to impose their agenda. They still fall short when the numbers needed to override presidential veto. Compromise is still needed for the good of the country. So that is, I think, another piece that we could use as solid evidence. So there's some tips and tricks there by looking for reasons why it shouldn't shut down, and then asking yourself the question because, and making sure it explains and not repeats. And that should keep you on the track of finding some pretty solid evidence.